بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما رب زدني علما رب زدني علما.
Okay, now we want to come to Nusantara, which is Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. Let's keep going. Okay, now this is a typical traditional Nusantara mosque. This is actually, I believe, from Indonesia. Okay, now that is called a sacred mountain in their traditions. And this was sacred to them before Islam came. So you're going to have 3 tiers, 4 tiers, 5 tiers. And it's very good for the rain, it's very good for the heat and the humidity, and also that it's sacred in the eyes of the people. So that's smart. Let's keep going. Here's another one. I think they're beautiful. Here's another one. Sacred mountains. Cosmic mountains, actually, it's called. Cosmic mountain. Let's take the next one. Another cosmic mountain. Don't you think that's beautiful? And if you go inside of them, they are so fantastic. You think there's a big carpet on the floor? No. It's marble. Because again, it's humid there. Carpets like this, they're not nice after a while. So they want to have it marble. Okay, and then people bring in prayer mats and things like that. Okay, let's keep going. Another one, keep going. Okay, now that is a big what? Drum outside the mosque. Cultural convention. What's it about? Calling to prayer. Haram, isn't it? You think they don't call the adhan? Yes, they do. But they have jungle. They have thick forests. And sound doesn't carry well. The sound of the human voice doesn't carry well in the jungle. But drums do. So they have drum language. Boom, boom. And then they have certain beats that say, come and gather. Other ones say there's danger. Other ones say there's time for prayer. They speak the language of drums. Many people do that, in Africa especially. Drum language. Okay? And so they put up these huge drums. That is an ancient Indonesian Nusantara tradition. And we adopt it because that is the cultural imperative. This is something good. It suits the situation in those lands. Okay? And we're not going to stop calling the adhan. We do that too. But we also do this as well. Let's keep going. Okay, now here, if you look closely, you'll see that going into the mosque, this is typical in Nusantara, that you've got to wade through a pool of water. Well, what's that bid'ah all about? Haram, right? Did the Prophet do that? Okay, why do they do it? Well, because they are a rice civilization. They work in rice paddies. And rice paddies can be dry much of the year. But in the beginning, the rice paddy is muddy. Very muddy. And you've got to go barefoot. And then you've got this peasant coming to the mosque with mud all over his feet. So you're going to beat him and say, wash your feet, wash your feet. No. So he's got to go make wudu, usually. He probably doesn't have it. So he's got to walk through a pool of water like that to go make wudu. And of course, when he makes wudu, is he going to wash his feet? Okay, and then he's got to walk through it coming out. And then he's got to walk through it coming into the mosque. So basically, he's not going to track. Okay? And you're going to have to take off your shoes too, because unless you can jump really well, you're going to have to walk in the water. Okay? Now, there's a big problem with that. And that is that the water gets filled with all kinds of organic things. And you get yucky larvae and mosquitoes. So what are you going to do culturally? Put fish in there. You see beautiful fish. They can be those, what they call them, koi or whatever. Beautiful fish. And you know what? If you're hungry, you're going to eat that fish. See, so this is also cultural imperative. Is there anything wrong with it? No, this is right. This needs to be respected. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, now, we're talking about the 9 saints. And we're especially talking here about Kali Jata, whom I love. And I know one of his great, great, great descendants. Her name is Shanti. And she lives in Jakarta. And Kali Jaga was, my goodness, you can't believe his story. We won't go into it in great detail, but he was a great saint. He was like a Robin Hood. And then he became a great saint. And then he takes Islam to the Javanese. He was an aristocrat, very high family. But he takes Islam to the peasants, the rice peasants. And he teaches them Islam through shadow puppets. Those are shadow puppets, and those are his puppets. You see how skinny they are? How long their noses are? That's because there was another saint named Sunan Giri, I think. And Sunan Giri says haram to make these puppets. Because in the beginning he had little fat puppets, traditional ones. So he goes back to the drawing board and he makes these and he says, Sunan Giri, do you think these could live? But I don't think so. He said, I'm going to use these then. So this is Kali Jaga, and they're very beautiful. And then they all tell stories. They'll tell stories about the great encounter that you've read about between Hamza and Krishna, or Vishnu, or between Yusuf and one of the other heroes or gods. Of course, all made up, right? But that's the way they talk to the people. And then they teach Islamic ethics, they teach Islamic teachings, they teach Islamic beliefs. And also they're very smart because you had most of the people there in Indonesia were Shivite Hindus, they were some Shiva, or they were Buddhists. So they knew what the Shivites like and what they didn't like. They knew where the Shivites get ecstatic. And so they played to that. And they knew that there are things the Shivites do that we don't like. So they left that alone. They didn't attack it. So we'll give you something beautiful. And so they bring the Shivites and the Buddhists into Islam through what they know. Again, remember Amr ibn al-As. Didn't he know the Romans pretty well? Well, they knew their people very well. And we have to know our people very well. Whether they're black or white or Latino or First Nations or whatever they might be. Let's keep going. And more of his shadow puppets, more of his shadow puppets. Keep going. Okay, now here we're going to look at Thailand. Thailand has a lot of Muslims, and we'll go through it quickly, but this is a little Thai village on one of the islands. And again, you know, they're a little bit poor. Their mosque is very old, made from bamboo. But again, it fits in very beautifully. This is their imam. This is our brother Mansour. A lot of you know him. And he was there on his honeymoon. He went to Thailand with his wife, and they go to this island. They're all Muslims. They didn't know that. Of course, the Muslims were really good to them. So let's keep going. Okay, now let's go to India. There's, of course, the Taj Mahal. Keep going. Okay, now, the oldest mosques in India looked somewhat like this. This is a model. Where are these mosques to be found? Kerala. Okay, in Western India. And Islam comes to Western India really early, in the days of the successors. So these are mosques that were built by the successors, the Tabi'een. And again, they're based on cosmic mountains. A little bit different, but it's still a cosmic mountain. And I've seen about 13 of them. And they're really beautiful, really beautiful. And again, they don't jar with the local culture. They don't make a statement against the local culture. And these are the Salaf who did that. Let's keep going. Okay, now this is the Taj Mahal. This is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful buildings in the world. And a lot of us have been told by the ideologues that this is terrible. This was a waste of money. They're not really wrong. But the thing is, this is politics. And this is culture. Because the moguls, and I'm not saying that what they did is beyond any criticism, but they built something that is so beautiful that it enables them to rule the Hindus and the Jains easier. That's very important. That's very important. And again, what is the logo of India if it's not the Taj Mahal? See, so again, we had cultural genius. Maybe we didn't have to spend that much money on it. And then maybe we could have made it a mosque instead of a mausoleum because his beloved wife died. Okay, we'll leave that for God. Right? I would like to do that. You can do whatever you want. But still, cultural genius. And if you look at the Moguls of India, everything they did was that way. You look at the Muslims of Pakistan, India, geniuses, brilliant, brilliant. Let's keep going. Okay, this is the mosque. Okay, now we're going to Sri Lanka. We have any Sri Lankans here? No, I hope I don't embarrass you by asking. But this is one of my favorite mosques, the Pomegranate Mosque. Okay, and this was built by a man who we believe is a saint. He wasn't an architect. He wasn't a builder. But they had to build a really beautiful mosque in downtown Colombo. And they had very limited space. So he said, I'll copy the pomegranate. Because the pomegranate gets lots of seeds in one place, doesn't it? And then also, what's the cultural aspect? Well, the pomegranate for Sri Lankan Muslims is a symbol of Islam. Because the people who spread Islam to Sri Lanka, they came from countries where they have pomegranates. They don't have them in Sri Lanka. So they associate the pomegranate with Islam. So it's a pomegranate mosque. And I just think it's fantastic. And I wish we could go there and pray there. And look at it. Keep going. Look at that. Look at that. That's a pomegranate. Look at that. Okay, let's go to the next picture. Now we're going to go to Turkey. Okay, Islamic architecture. We believe that architecture is the supreme art. I believe that. Architecture and our Islamic art, it really begins with prayer, with the mihrab, with the voice, the writing of Quran, dress. You have to have nice clothes so that you can make wudu and you can bow. They're not too tight. So also clothes are art for us. They always were. We like to look nice. And in fact, when people don't look nice, it means they don't have self-respect. They don't have and we believe in honor, don't we? And therefore we dress. Of course, I'm not criticizing anyone. We live in a culture that doesn't care much about honor. It doesn't. So we dress anyway. We wouldn't have done that in the past, would we? We wouldn't have done that in the past. So we like to dress nicely. We like to dress nicely. Now, go back. Okay, so our architecture was tectonic. And does anybody know what that difficult word means, tectonic? If you're architects, you probably do. But tectonic means it fits the earth. It fits the earth. And look at that. Isn't that incredible? You see, it's built to accentuate the mountain, because God created the mountain. And you can go through the Muslim world and see this everywhere. In Turkey, in Spain, in Morocco. We are tectonic. We want to fit the earth. And we go to Rosales, this beautiful place in Spain. And there's a Moorish house there that goes back to the Muslims of Spain. I believe it was a commander's house, because you had a lot of army people in that place. And he built his house on a hill. And he didn't dig out any of the hill. He built his house over the hill. I just wish I could take you there and show it to you. Perfectly tectonic, because God created the hill. So I'm going to make my house fit the hill. And you've never been in anything like it. It is so beautiful. The airflow is natural. The light flow is incredible. And it's just, you want to be there. You want to stay there. So we were tectonic. Al-Hamra, tectonic. Modern architecture tends to be anti-tectonic. Doesn't want to fit the earth. And modern buildings, many of which are very beautiful, without any question, but they usually say, look at me, look at me, look at me. Even if I'm ugly, look at me. Whereas our buildings say, look at the heavens, look at the earth, look at the mountains. It's different, isn't it?